we felt, Ruth and I, compelled on Mother's Day to speak to you about God's everlasting love. And especially to convey that to all the ladies here today. And we really feel that the best way that we can do that this morning is to invite some ladies to share testimonies with you, just to share a very small snapshot of their lives, of something that has happened with them, where they felt God's goodness, they felt God's faithfulness in a way that was really personal to them.
So each one has been asked to share with you a time in their life where they felt God's everlasting love. We haven't asked for a light bulb moment or a headline story. We've asked each lady to share with you a moment where they knew that God knew where they were at and they felt his everlasting love in a personal way.
So we've got 5 ladies that are going to come and share something with us. We would ask, would you be really encouraging to them? It's so daunting getting up on here. It's no different. It's only a few feet away from where you're sitting, but it feels incredibly different when you're up here. So would you be gracious towards them? Would you encourage them? So the first person that we're going to ask to share a little bit with you is Beck Bradley. I'm hoping she's here somewhere. Yeah, she is. Let's welcome her up, shall we? So, since I was a little girl, I've known Beth, and she has been such a strong and steady influence on my life. And that is one of the reasons why I'd asked her to come and share with you just something that I'm sure will bless you all.
Well, I'm really nervous, actually. Go on, then. I did try to get out of this, but when you know Emma, there's no choice. But I want to start by quoting, actually, we just sung the song. All my life, you have been faithful. All my life, you've been so, so good. And I can testify to that. I gave my life to Jesus when I was 16. And, you know, that was over 60 years ago, so you can tell how old I am. Do you want to guess? Oh, no. Thank you. Thank you. And during those years, there have been great times. But there has also been fearful times. There have been times of heartache, and there have been times of sadness, and there have been times of not knowing what to do. Even though I love the Lord, there are times when I didn't just know what to do. But God has promised that he'd always be with us, and he'd always guide us through. I remember when Moses, when they were going through the Red Sea, someone said he didn't take the Red Sea away, he parted it. And made a way through. And there were times when my husband Joe had his stroke, didn't think he would walk or speak again, but through God's grace, he can. And there were times in COVID when, as a family, something really happened that caused this great heartache to our family and great distress. And there again, not knowing what to do. But I knew God was in control. And that's still an ongoing situation. But we're trusting God. And I remember being at a church, and there was a sermon, and the title of his sermon was this: Never doubt in the dark what you've proved in the light. And you know, I knew that God was faithful, even when I felt confused, not knowing which way to take. But I knew that I'd got to keep trusting God. And during those times, there's a lovely story in the Bible, and we've mentioned it here loads of times, about when Jesus said to his disciples, let's cross over to the other side in a little boat. And they had a little boat, and they got in the boat. And you probably all know the story, that suddenly there was a great storm. They were sailing away quite nicely, but suddenly there was a great storm. And the disciples were afraid. And it says they were very afraid. And they didn't know what to do, and they were starting panicking and shouting. And you know, that sounds a bit like life, doesn't it? Suddenly, without warning, without being prepared, things happen in our life that cause us to be afraid, that cause us pain, that cause us heartache. Maybe an illness, maybe a family problem, maybe a bereavement, maybe a loss of a job or tiredness, mental health. Suddenly, it comes into our lives. But you know, the disciples, during that time, during their time of being afraid, they remembered who was in the boat. And Jesus was in the boat. And you know, I don't know what life holds for you, but I do know this, that you are special. And you're special to God. And you know, if you give your life, or if you've given your life to Jesus, then Jesus will be in your boat. He'll be in your life. No matter what the future holds, I have experienced that God can be trusted and God is faithful. And if you don't know him today, I urge you more than anything, give your life to Jesus and he can be in your boat.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Beth. Okay, so our next lady up is somebody that it's been a privilege to see her relationship with God grow over the past couple of years and for her to be baptised a while ago here. And I don't know about you, but when she's on this stage worshipping God, I just love those mornings. So please welcome the lovely and amazing Heidi.
One of the moments where I felt God's everlasting love was during exams when I felt a bit overwhelmed and stressed with all the pressure. I kept reading through John 14:27. Peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled and do not be afraid. After reading this daily, I felt secure in God's plan and knew that as long as I had him, nothing else really mattered.
Thank you, Heidi. Amazing. Thank you. Our next lady up is just making her way down to us. Do you want to give her a round of applause? We've got Judith Tatler.
So we're going to stay down off the stage, aren't we? Judith is so creative. I'm sure some of you know this, but in each of the outreach events that we've done, she comes alongside us, not only to encourage us, but a lot of what you see that gets done in the Winter Wonderland and with the bunnies is down to some what Judith does. And we're so grateful for all that she does here in this church. She's that strong and steady influence that's always there and encouraging people. So we're really grateful for you. Would you like to share with us?
Well, my story is something that happened 13 years ago after my first spinal surgery, which was very traumatic and a very difficult recovery. And I was really struggling. And one day, David said to me, I'd love to get you a present. Is there something that you'd really like that would cheer you up? Perhaps something for the garden. And immediately I said, I'd love a potting shed. So we did a quick Google search and said, I'd rather eat. So that idea sort of went out, but I knew, it was one of those moments when I knew the Lord had heard me. It wasn't long after, one afternoon, David said, we need to get some paint. I need to go to B&Q. Do you want to come out just for, a little trip out? He knew how to treat a girl. So, so we got into the car, but it was about 7:30, and we knew B&Q closed at 8. So we got there, and I said, look, David, I can't walk. You go up and get the paint. I'll wait here by the tills. So Judy came back with the paint. It's about 7:45 by now, and all the announcements were saying the store was about to close. And suddenly, this assistant rolled up beside us with this flatbed trolley with a battered, half-open, taped-together box and shouted, "Anybody want a greenhouse for £1?" So David said, "Yes." Unbeknown to me, he'd already gone down to the bottom of the garden and measured the plot that we'd got left, and it was 6 by 6. She said, "I've got to throw it in the skip unless you want it, but I've got to charge you £1 to get through the tills, and it's only a 6 by 6. So we had it, took it over to the car, and David manhandled it in, and all I could hear was nuts and bolts rolling around. I thought, is this going to be a wreck? Anyway, over the next week, he put it together. It was fully glazed, everything there, bar one last little piece of metal that was something to do with the window opener, which we didn't really need. But at the back of the instruction book, it said, "Any parts missing, email us on." So I did. And a few days later, they sent the missing part for free. What I should have said was, when we were at the car park and David had manhandled this thing into the car, he said, "I'm going to take the trolley back." And I heard the lad who was clearing up the car park saying, "I'll take it off you, mate, don't worry." And as we were about to drive off, he tapped on the window and said, "You forgot your trolley pound, mate." And David said, "But it wasn't our pound, it wasn't our trolley." But he said, "I'll have it anyway." So we ended up with a perfect 6 by 6 little potting shed greenhouse. And every day I look out of my kitchen window and I just remember that overwhelming love of God, that he heard my whisper that I wanted a potting shed, but also that it reminds me that I've got a loving Heavenly Father who walks with me day by day, no matter how battered and bruised I am, and he's working in me. And one day I'll stand before him absolutely perfect.
Amazing. Thank you, Judy. Okay, so our next lady is very nervous, but she's going to do it. As soon as we realised that we were going to ask some ladies, I knew I was to ask Laura. And even as I was talking to her about it, she said to me, "I knew you were going to ask me. I knew you were going to ask me this question." So that was confirmation for me. So,
thank you. Morning, everyone. As Ruth said, I am incredibly nervous, but here goes. Our verse today is, "I have loved you with an everlasting love." Over the past year, I feel like God has slowly been teaching me what that truly means. January 2025 was the start of a tricky time in my life. I'd been a head teacher for 2 years in a very challenging school. It was never a role I'd planned for, but I was moved into it, having been a deputy at the school for the last 8 years. So when the head teacher left, they asked me to do the job. I often left home at 6 a.m, arrived home at 6 p.m, and worked the rest of the evening. Weekends, I would try to grab some family time where I could, but it always ended in Sunday afternoons and evenings behind a computer. Nights of little sleep, worrying what the next day might bring. At the time, I didn't realise how much it was affecting me, but by January, it had completely broken me. I was exhausted, physically and mentally. I felt like I was barely holding things together. But even in that place, when I felt at my lowest, God was already putting people around me. My wonderful friend of over 20 years, Linda, reached out and asked me if I wanted to meet for a coffee in the coffee lounge. She didn't just invite me once, she kept inviting me back for regular coffee catch-ups every couple of weeks, as well as texts in the meantime. And as she always has, she somehow seemed to have exactly the right words at exactly the right time, always telling me that God had a plan for me and I needed to trust him. And even this morning, when we were chatting before the service, she said, "You know what I'm going to say to you, Laws? God has a plan for you. You need to continue to trust him." As I was off work, I would often see Ruth on the school run. She would always make time for me, check in, ask how I was doing, knowing I was finding things tricky. One morning, I was going home to do a Teams meeting with my boss at the school, which I was absolutely dreading. She asked if she could pray for me right there in the car park. Before the meeting, I quickly Googled Bible verses for when times are tough. I wrote a few of them down on a piece of paper, and during the meeting, I was reading these over and over again. And something truly wonderful happened. I found a voice I didn't know I had. I stood confident, even though inside I felt completely broken. I said things I didn't know I was capable of saying. And looking back now, that wasn't me. I know God was with me in that moment. About a week later, Ruth sent me a message saying I was always welcome at Kingsway. No pressure at all. But that was the final piece of the puzzle I needed. That Sunday, I arrived at 10:29. Ruth was under strict instructions to meet me by the door. I walked in with my head down and went straight to the seat she'd saved for Camden and I. The following week, I arrived at 10:28 and did exactly the same. But week by week, I started arriving a bit earlier and eventually had the courage to walk in on my own. Being here, feeling God's presence and being surrounded by such kind, genuine people was exactly what my heart needed, even though at the time I didn't realise it. Over the past year, I've started trying to look after my health more intentionally. Ruth and I had what felt like a crazy idea at the time to take up running. So we started in April 2025 with Mark dragging us along. Neither of us could talk because we could barely breathe. But nearly a year later, we've been consistently running together 3 mornings a week. We meet at 5:30 a.m., come rain or shine. And in 6 weeks' time, we'll be running the Birmingham Half Marathon together. I'm not sure if Ruth fully realises how much this has helped me. Those early mornings have become about much more than running. Her faith is something that shines through. The way she lives out her faith with encouragement, kindness, and quiet strength has supported me more than she will ever know. And she has helped me in ways far beyond the miles we've run together. I also joined a spin class at the local gym in a bid to continue to get fit on a Tuesday morning. Completely out of my comfort zone and very unfit. But it was a small class, and I strangely had a feeling of a real sense of peace there. After a few weeks, I noticed the instructor was wearing a cross necklace. So we got chatting after the class, and it turned out she's a Christian, and her daughter Faith is actually part of Kingsway Church. We started chatting each week, and she invited me to a coffee morning at her church, Arise. And while we were talking, she said the words that Linda always tells me: God knows the plan for your life, you just need to trust his plan. And trusting wasn't easy, because financially it felt scary. We have bills to pay, Camden has many clubs, holidays, real life things, and teaching is all I've known for the last 20 years. But eventually I spoke to my partner about stepping down from my headship, and I was expecting a really difficult conversation about money. But instead, he said, I feel like I've got the person back that I met 11 years ago, and that money didn't matter, we would work it out. So in September, I started supply teaching, hoping to rediscover my love for teaching again and build up my confidence. It's taken time, but I feel like that's slowly coming back. It might not be the long-term answer, and I'm still waiting to see what God's plan is. Sometimes I feel like I can see a door starting to open, and then it closes again. And I used to find that really frustrating, but now I'm learning something different. I'm learning that even when I can't see the whole path, God already can. And right now, my job is simply to trust him, keep praying, and being patient while he reveals the next step. Looking back over the last year, I can see God's love woven through every part of it. Through Linda, through Ruth, through Jane, my lovely spin teacher, through Rachel, who met with me each week, wiping away the tears and knowing exactly what to say, and through people I've met here at Kingsway. Also through the quiet moments when I can feel him carrying me when I couldn't carry myself. And that's when I realised that the verse is true. Even in our hardest moments, even when we feel lost, God still says, I have loved you with everlasting love. So thank you for welcoming me to the Kingsway family, to those I talk to regularly, to those I've spoken to occasionally, and to those who I haven't met yet. I'm truly grateful to you all.
Our last lady that we've got to come and share something with us all is Elaine. Elaine, where are you? Wonderful, you are here. Elaine is somebody who's always there. She's somebody who comes alongside you right at the moment when you really need it and you didn't even know sometimes that you need it. And she has the right things to say, always. So we're really blessed by having you here and we're looking forward to what you've got to say.
No pressure then.
No pressure.
Thank you to all the ladies so far. It's been absolutely wonderful. So, I don't know whether I can follow that. But 13 years ago, I think Betty mentioned 13 as well. 13 years ago, we were upstairs and we sang Divine Exchange. My heart is captivated, Lord, by you alone. Captured by the awesomeness of you alone. Melted by the grace and mercy you have shown. I stand in wonder. And at that point, I realised just how much God loved me and how much he was going to be in my life. I hadn't been a Christian long at that time, but that was the time when I felt, wow, how wonderful is God. And as the years have gone on, I've always felt God in my life at times when I needed him. Because, you wander along and everything's fine. We're retired. We had a lovely life. We were able to do the things we wanted to do. But then there's always that kink in the road, isn't there? A crossroads. And you think, now what? And last year, it was June, we were on holiday and everything turned upside down and I wasn't sure how we would manage. A family circumstance happened. But I felt God say to me, trust me, I've got this. I will walk alongside you and we'll get through this together. And we have. We've come through all those difficult times and things are moving forward in a positive way. So I give thanks to God that he is true, that he's always faithful, he's always by your side. And I urge anyone that doesn't know the Lord to think about it and to just look more into who God is, because he wants you, the same that he wanted me and I didn't know. So I give thanks to God. Thank you.
Today we celebrate love in its many forms. Psalm 145 sums up everything that we're trying to convey to you all through these testimonies that these ladies have shared with us this morning. It says this: I lift you high in praise, my God, O my King, and I bless your name into eternity. I bless you every day and keep it up from now until now to eternity. God is magnificent. He can never be praised enough. There are no boundaries to his greatness. Generation after generation stands in awe of your work. Each one tells stories of your mighty acts. Your beauty and splendour have everyone talking. I compose songs on your wonders. Your marvellous doings are headline news. I could write a book full of details of your greatness. The fame of your goodness spreads across the country. Your righteousness is on everyone's lips. God is all mercy and grace, not quick to anger, is rich in love. God is good to one and all. Everything he does is soaked through with grace. Creation and creatures applaud you, God. Your holy people bless you. They talk about the glories of your rule. They exclaim over your splendour, letting the world know of your power for good, the lavish splendour of your kingdom. Your kingdom is a kingdom eternal. You never get voted out of office. God always does what he says and is gracious in everything he does. God gives a hand to those down on their luck, gives fresh start to those ready to quit. All eyes are on you, expectant. You give them their meals on time, generous to a fault. You lavish your favour on all creatures. Everything God does is right. The trademark on all his works is love. God's there listening for all who pray and mean it. He does what's best for those who fear him, hears them call out and saves them. God sticks by all who love him, but it's all over for those who don't. My mouth is filled with God's praise. Let everything living bless him. Yeah. Bless his holy name from now to eternity. Yeah.
I love that part of Psalm 145 from the Message, which says, his trademark is love. Trademark is something that identifies, it distinguishes it from something else. It identifies the source, and it identifies a distinctive characteristic or a feature. And I think love pretty much does that about God. And it's why we are talking about this today, on this special day. So the older youth passed out bracelets to each of you, and it says on there, I have loved you with an everlasting love. So we thought that would be a really nice reminder to you all. When we were thinking about what to talk about, we kept coming back to the verse from Jeremiah 31, which says about God's everlasting love.
We live in a time where time spans seem so short, everything needs to be quick, and so much is throwaway. Information is readily available, and everything is at our fingertips, isn't it? We scroll through so much on our phones, and our attention span is such that we can flick through Instagram so quickly that if it doesn't tell us exactly what we need to know within 10 seconds, we've scrolled on. So much is easy to use, quick and disposable, and shelf lives are short. We're so grateful that everything we look to with God and all that he goes against, and all that he does goes against that grain.
And he reassures us in Jeremiah 31. So to put this into context, Jeremiah 31 is a prophetic chapter where God is speaking to Israel after their time of exile. He's reassuring them and he's reminding them of his love. He's reminding them of his faithfulness, and he ends with the promise of a new covenant that's written on their hearts. And the verse that we felt was really our theme today, being I loved you with an everlasting love. And it strikes me straight away that it starts in the past tense, I have loved you. But then it goes on to say with an everlasting love. So it's always been, and it always will. Just like the ladies have spoken to us about, those moments in their lives where God was there to reassure them with something that was really personal to them. It might have been a potting shed. It may have been that quiet moment like Laura's has spoken about. But God knows exactly what we need, and he knows the exact moment when we need it.
The Message translation puts it like this. I have drawn you with an unfailing kindness. God told them, I've never quit loving you and never will. Expect love, and more love. What an assurance. When the girls were small, if they ever fell over, and anybody that knows Grace knows that she's very clumsy and fell over quite a lot, I would be there before they even got up, reaching out to reassure them, not to tell them off, but to comfort them, to pull them close and to make sure that they were okay.
And that's what God's love is like for us. It's reassuring. It reaches out to us before we know that we even need to ask. Sometimes it's gentle. It calls us back when we wonder. It draws us in. Not with pressure or with obligation, but with kindness and care. And there's many ways that God's love is demonstrated in our lives. And through others is the way that we're celebrating here today on Mother's Day. So whether you are a mother, an aunt, godmother, friend who's got a title of aunt, whatever, know that God can and that he will use you to show his love to others.
So through mothers and grandmothers whose sacrifices often go unseen, but whose hearts are full of devotion.
Through fathers, mentors and teachers who guide and support us with patience.
Through friends and neighbours who remind us that we're not alone.
And even for those who may not have had that someone to call mother, this verse reminds us all that we are held in love, a love that never fails, that never abandons and never gives up. That love is God's, and it is drawing us, and it draws you closer today, right where you're at.
Mother's Day is not just about flowers, cards, or gifts, as much as they're all lovely. It's about honouring love itself. The love that nurtures, the love that forgives, the love that lifts us when we fall.
It's about sharing that love with others, reflecting God's everlasting kindness in our families and with our friends and with our communities, even in the small, seemingly insignificant everyday moments.
So today, let's celebrate love received and love given.
And most of all, the one who draws us close with his trademark love, that everlasting love. So, Ruth, I'm going to ask you if you'll pray to close this part and then lead on.
Yeah. Okay, so Heavenly Father, we thank you that you are a God of love, that your trademark is love, and you are always there waiting for us, anticipating and rescuing us with your arms of love. Lord, would you comfort those who need it? Would you reassure those who need reassuring in your love? And would you remind us all that you care about every detail of our lives, including the small bits? Amen.